Director Hansen?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Howell?
Here.
Director Hume?
Here.
Director Jennings?
Here.
Director Miller?
Present.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier? Director Cerna and Chair Kennedy are marked as being absent. I'll announce and Director Budge just walked in, thank you. I'm gonna announce the closed session items. Property McCormick Avenue. The board will recess to closed session.
Thank you. And the members of the public, we have a short closed session. We'll be back at 5:30 for the regular meeting. Thank you. We're adjourned. Recessed, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, that's the right term.
Close. I would like to.
diagram if that helps you. If you can read. You want to trade me? I don't mind. Can't tell if mine's any higher, but.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the evening meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit Board. Madam Clerk, do we need to redo quorum, or are we still good from the
We
last?
need to redo quorum,
All right,
please.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Budge? Yes. Director Hanson?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Howell?
Here.
Director Hume?
Here.
Director Jennings?
Here.
Director Miller?
Present.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Gutierrez? Yeah, you. And Director Cerna and Chair Kennedy are marked as being absent, and we have a quorum with 100 votes. This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel. Tonight's meeting will air on December 11th at 6 p.m. and replayed on December 15th at 2 p.m. And we will be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed captioned. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Supervisor Frost, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right. All rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, first item.
First item is the consent calendar, items 2.1 through 2.11, and I do not have any speakers for those items.
All right. Do any board members wish to comment on an item? No?
Yeah, I have two questions.
Okay.
On 2.6, which is the sole source on the fuel card credit application, is there any reason why we're sole sourcing that and didn't get bids?
So that fueling is specifically for the Elk Grove contract that we have in the service that we're running, and our contract states that we have to source CNG fuel within the city limits of Elk Grove.
Okay.
And that's the only facility in Elk Grove.
Okay, great. And then my second question is, what is the parking capacity on 2.7? Which is the
Butterfield
franchise tax board.
The number of spaces, just hold on one second. Approximately 100 spaces.
They want 100 spaces, and we're not using the spaces now?
Right.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Those
All
are
right,
my
is that a
questions.
motion to approve the?
I will move consent.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion from Supervisor Howell, or Director Howell, a second from Director Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? Consent calendar passes.
Motion carries at 100 votes. The next item is item 3.1, introduction of special guest, special recognition, American Public Transportation Association Manager of the Year, presented by Shelley Valentin.
Good evening, Vice Chair Hansen, members of the board, and everyone here tonight. My name is Shelley Valentin. I'm the Vice President of Integrated Services and Strategic Initiatives here at SAC-RT. Tonight, I have the distinct honor of recognizing our very own General Manager CEO, Henry Lee, for receiving the 2019 Manager of the Year Award from the American Public Transportation Association, or APTA. APTA is the leading force in advancing public transportation throughout North America, representing over 1,600 member organizations. Only one out of the thousands of transit CEOs throughout the United States and Canada is honored with this award each year, and we have him here today. In fact, APTA fondly describes it as the equivalent of an Oscar award for the transit industry. Henry formally received the award at APTA's annual conference in New York back in October. Representing the board at that event were Chair Kennedy, Vice Chair Hansen, and Director Chenier. It was certainly a proud moment for SAC-RT and a very exciting award ceremony with over 2,000 industry leaders attending this year's conference. Since not all of us could be there for that occasion, let me share a short video of Henry's accomplishments that was shown at the ceremony, a clip from the actual event, and Henry doesn't know this, a message from APTA's President and CEO, Paul Scutelis.
Greeting members of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Board and the Sacramento community. I'm Paul Scutelis, President and CEO of the American Public Transportation Association, known as APTA, and I wanted to personally congratulate Henry Lee on being named the 2019 Outstanding Public Transportation Manager of the Year. The APTA Awards Committee selected Henry because of his extraordinary leadership. Sacramento RT has seen a historic turnaround in just 3 years. Henry came prepared to make tough decisions, to mend broken relationships, and to refocus on customers. I look forward to seeing him continue to excel in all he will do for the Sacramento region and for our transit industry. Congratulations, Henry.
This award is given to an APTA public transportation manager who's made outstanding contributions to the public transportation industry. And presenting the award is Jeannie Craig. And the recipient is Henry Lee, General Manager, CEO of Sacramento Regional Transit Authority.
Sacramento Regional Transit District CEO Henry Lee is a visionary leader with a proven track record of strategic innovation. His 20 years of leadership includes service at transit agencies in San Francisco, Atlanta, and Jacksonville. Over the last 3 years, SAC-RT has seen a historic transformation with a priority on customers first and business optimization, while emphasizing strong transparency and accountability. Henry made it clear that safety and security are SAC-RT's top priority. As a result, SAC-RT was honored with the National TSA Gold Standard Award for System Security. Under Henry's leadership, SAC-RT decreased fares, significantly improved service delivery, reimagined the entire bus network, launched a highly successful microtransit, reunited the region by annexing small transit systems into SAC-RT, and reversed the ridership decline trend, all while building up reserves. Henry's work has only just begun. He's looking to the future to accelerate SAC-RT's transformation in providing a world-class regional mobility network.
Congratulations, Henry.
Thank you very much. I just want to use 1 second to say something. I'm truly humbled to be recognized as the CEO of the APTA of the year. But the credit goes to all of you, our board, our hardworking SAC-RT employees, our passengers, 22 million riders, ridership, and community stakeholders and advocates who keep us in check. And specifically thank Assemblymember Kelly and Supervisor Frost for you guys' guidance and support from state level, from county level. Thank you very much. Thank you, board.
That concludes my presentation. May we please have a quick photo with the board members and Henry holding this glass
Before we
award?
do that,
Okay.
I know I got to celebrate Henry with him getting the award. It was a magical morning. It was actually very early, especially West Coast time for those of us who flew in for it. We had Jay Chenier, Patrick Kennedy, and also Stephanie Nguyen flew in just for the morning and flew back on her own dime to celebrate Henry because of his accomplishments and what it means to the API community. I don't know if any other board members would like to make comments just before we do the photo. No. Henry, we're very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah.
Director Harris.
Henry, I'd just like to say that it's a lot more fun being a board member since you've been here than it was previously.
Thank you, Director Harris. Anyone else? Going once, going.
And just would note that we have a lapel pin that has Henry Lee emblazoned on it as well, so we got to recognize good memory and share with you, Henry.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, let's do a quick photo. Yeah, let's come out in front.
All right, we may need to squeeze in a bit, so I can make sure I get everyone in.
Henry, you're in the middle.
All right, may need to squeeze in. Yeah. Squeeze in. I'm gonna need to squeeze in a bit more, so I don't have a lot of ceiling.
Thanks, Paul.
Could we do 2 layers? I'm trying not to get the rest of this stuff in the shot. Anyone else not see it? Okay, right here. Big smiles right here. 1, 2, 3. One more. And hold. I have another phone. Okay, right here. 1, 2, 3. One more, just in case. Beautiful.
They moved you over. You're sitting. All right, thank you and congratulations, Henry. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 3.2, special presentation, certificates of recognition for the Green Energy Program. And we have Assembly Member Kiley and Supervisor Susan Frost to make their presentations.
Welcome, Assemblyman and Supervisor. Do you want to step to the podium, please? Do we have staff who's going to also present? No?
No.
Okay, welcome.
Hello.
Don't be shy.
Okay. Great to be here tonight. I want to congratulate the entire board on this very well-deserved recognition. I'm someone who's very grateful for SAC-RT. I've used it personally quite a bit. When I was growing up, I'd work jobs in the city and high school and college and would rely on regional transit to get there and might not be able to do those jobs if it weren't for the service that you provide. And nowadays I have a lot of constituents who rely on it for the same purpose. And as our area continues to grow, it's going to be even more important in order to accommodate the people that we'll be bringing into the region. And, it's great to see, as we've obviously had huge changes in the worlds of transportation and energy in recent years, that SAC-RT has not only adapted to those changes, but has embraced them in order to better fulfill its mission of providing safe and reliable and fiscally responsible transit throughout the Sacramento region. And I know that in the years ahead, we're going to continue to see huge transformations in these areas. And so I have every confidence from what we've seen from the board here and the leadership in your ability to pave the way for that future in order to serve more folks in our region. So on behalf of the California State Assembly, I just wanted to provide this recognition specifically for the Green Energy Program, which is a great example of the innovation that continues to drive SAC-RT. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman.
You're welcome.
And just so you know, if you're working those jobs now, you'd be riding for free because youth ride for free now on regional train. Thank you for being a great
He's older than he looks.
I don't know. He could pass, I think. Supervisor Frost.
Good evening, Chair Hansen and board members and Henry. I'm delighted to be here. I want to thank you for allowing me to come and recognize you and thank you for your work. I'm also here to recognize Henry and this board for the Green Energy Award that was awarded by the Folsom Chamber of Commerce, Greater Folsom Partnership. But mostly I want to thank you for listening. Henry, since you came, you have worked very hard to have an open ear to those of us who are in the outlying areas of the county. And I want to acknowledge that we all very much appreciate your innovative thinking and your innovative solutions that have meant a great deal to my constituents and made a difference in many people's lives. There are some people in my district who actually are having challenges financially because now they love that smart ride so much. It opens up a whole new world, and I think some of the board members know what I'm talking about. They're just so excited that they can go places that they were never able to go before. And so for those members, constituents who use public transit, it's greatly appreciated. And I also wanted to acknowledge that I'm amazed at all the awards that regional transit has received over the past year. I think I have a list of them here. SACOG, the US 50 Corridor 2018 Big Wheels, the Greater Folsom Partnership 2019 Green Energy Award, Sacramento Clean Cities Coalition 2018, Metro Magazine's 2018 Innovative Solutions Award, Sacramento Taxpayers Association 2019 Good Governance Award, Federal Transportation Security Administration's 2019 Gold Standard Award for System Security, Asian Resources, Inc., 2019 Community Partner Award, and the American Public Transportation Association's Outstanding Public Transportation CEO of the Year. So it gives me a great deal of pleasure to recognize you, Henry, and the board for your hard work and congratulate you for all of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. Henry, would you like to do a photo? Yeah, please.
This award is the best award of all awards.
All right.
No, I'm
You in the middle. Yeah. There you go. All right. Hold this one this way. Yeah, you go. Perfect. Okay. Right here. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do one more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you very much.
Assembly member, supervisor, you're welcome anytime. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
Just a note for the record, item 3.3 has been pulled from the agenda, so we will move on to item 4.1. Unfinished business, approving the Causeway Connection intercity bus service. You have 4 actions in front of you. Resolution approving a Title VI service and fair equity analysis, and resolution conditionally adopting service changes to establish a new Causeway Connection bus service to the UC Davis Medical Center, and resolution delegating authority to the GM CEO to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Sacramento Regional Transit District, the Yolo County Transportation District, and the University of California, Davis for operation of the Causeway Connection, and resolution conditionally recognizing the University of California, Davis undergraduate student ID card as fare equivalent for the Causeway Connection. And Laura Ham is here to present.
Thank you, Laura. I know we had a long discussion about this at one of our last meetings, and look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update on the Causeway Connection route tonight. I'd like to again thank our partners, some of whom are here again tonight, including Julia Burrows from the Mayor's Office, Matt Dulcich from UC Davis, Will Berry from Electrify America, as well as others who couldn't be here, including Terry Bassett from YOLO Transit, Anthony Palmer, who also was a consultant on the project working on the schedule, and the SAC-RT staff who has been involved in researching all the issues surrounding this effort. Big thanks to the members of the ridership group that have spent many hours of their own time, evenings and weekends, providing us with detailed feedback on the schedule and other issues. We did meet with the rider group after the November 18th board meeting. We took copious notes on their questions and concerns, and the group following that meeting put together a Path to Yes document, which is included in your packet. That document includes a number of requests, and I'd like to go over the main topic areas in that document. Our partners are here tonight, and they're also ready to provide comment regarding aspects of the project that are in their areas of control and not within SAC-RT's control. So we'll start with the schedule. After receiving the Path to Yes document, we understood that the main topic we could address quickly was the schedule, including which stops to serve. And we have worked nonstop with the rider group and our partners at UCD and YOLO to make adjustments to the schedule. We held a teleconference and a second face-to-face meeting with the riders specific to schedule issues, as well as exchanging numerous emails on the details. The modified schedule will have more of an emphasis on express service across the Causeway, and the existing stops in Davis at the Silo and the Genome facility will be preserved on most trips. We have again updated the running times across the Causeway, and I want to emphasize that the schedule as it runs today is extremely outdated. We made all adjustments that were reasonable, and staff and the riders discussed the schedule extensively. It was a cautious approach considering our new variables like electric vehicles, bringing on new ridership onto the route, capacity concerns, traffic variations, and two agencies working together on operations of this route. However, we do believe it is a strong and reasonable course of action, supportive of the goals of the project to provide emission-free travel options between Davis and Sacramento. And of course, we will monitor the route and schedule over time, as we do with all of our services, to determine if fine-tuning or other adjustments are necessary. So here's an updated route map that shows the park and ride options in East Davis at Mace, and the stops in downtown that will allow passengers to get from downtown Sacramento to Davis in the morning and from Davis to Sacramento in the afternoon. YOLO Bus still provides several options to get from Davis to Sacramento in the morning commute, so we felt this was a reasonable trade-off to provide time in the schedule for the additional stops in Davis that were a strong request, as well as the needed express service. So we gave you a handout. I realize you can't see this on the screen. There was a request at the last meeting from Director Natoli to compare the current schedule with the new schedule. So that's what these two slides here are. And the new schedule is also included in the staff report. We have the express trips from Davis to the Med Center highlighted for your information. Those are the trips in light blue, as well as the reverse commute trips in pink. Any questions on schedule before I
Let's
move
just finish
on?
the presentation and
Okay,
we'll come back
okay.
for any board questions.
So fares was another topic area of concern. The fares for UC Davis grad students and employees were addressed after the last meeting, and we believe this was one of the major concerns of the rider group in order to keep the service affordable. Through UC Davis fare programs, we understand that all employees and grad students will receive a discounted fare as they do today, and undergraduate students will ride for free with their student fee program. So this chart describes how the employees and grad students will now be receiving the same $45 monthly pass as they do today versus the $65 and $100 monthly pass that was in the last proposal. In their most recent letter, the Rider Group mentioned the current free rides for patients traveling to medical appointments. As you well know, SAC-RT transports patients to medical appointments throughout our system on both fixed route and paratransit services. We do offer a 50% discount right now to seniors and passengers with disabilities, so that's $1.25 for a single ride and $3.50 for a day pass. That would be available to eligible riders. We may not be in a fiscal position to offer free rides to medical appointments system-wide, but we do offer various options to entities that would like to subsidize fares, such as purchasing single ride tickets in bulk and so forth. I wanted to point out that the fare discounts are being provided by the university and wouldn't require a change to SAC-RT fare policy except for the types of UCD fares that we would honor on our system. We're working on interagency fare agreements, and the Memorandum of Understanding business points are also included in the staff report. Seatbelts. On the topic of seatbelts, which we discuss in detail in the staff report, retrofitting the vehicles to add seatbelts would require significant re-engineering of the vehicles, as the current seats cannot simply have seatbelts added. New, larger seats would need to be installed at mounting points, which would require the battery compartments to be revisited, and other issues such as vehicle weight would need to be considered. We're at the point of receiving delivery of these vehicles, and they're considered complete at this time, and therefore Electrify America has very reasonably stated that they will not fund this retrofit. In addition, it would cause significant delay to the project implementation, and it's not feasible to redesign the current fleet. At the end of the 3-year period of the MOU, we do believe that additional options for zero-emission over-the-road coaches will be available to us. A larger over-the-road coach is the type of bus used on the service today and would typically be equipped with the larger seats and seat belts that are being used today. As our commuter-type service offering expands and more funding becomes available for zero-emission vehicles, SAC-RT will pursue purchasing of the larger vehicle type for various services, and we could potentially swap these vehicles for a different service at that time. We wish we could offer something more definitive at this time, but staff did conduct extensive research with the manufacturer regarding the potential for a retrofit. Thank you to Proterra and Electrify America for spending so much staff time considering the issue for the riders. I should also mention that our legal and risk departments investigated regulations, risk factors, and other considerations regarding the use of seatbelts in transit buses, and we're fully compliant with all laws and regulations pertaining to seatbelts for public transit service. Bike racks. We provided extensive discussion regarding bicycle storage in the staff report, and like seatbelts, there was considerable staff time dedicated to the possibility of adding bike racks to the vehicles. In addition to the safety and logistical concerns identified in the staff report, we learned after staff report publication that the design of the vehicle, the composite frame and body of the vehicle, will not support a rear bike rack. Due to regulations pertaining to bike racks on transit vehicles, we're only able to offer the 3-position bike rack on the front of the vehicle, and that's due to the size of the bike rack on the front of the vehicle. We have learned that the Med Center will be installing a new 40-bike storage area available to those that want to use it at the transit stop at the Med Center. And we've also made schedule modifications that will help mitigate the bike issue with 3 buses per hour in the peak, as well as making the schedule less reliant on biking the last mile in Davis. We hope that shareable mobility like jump bike and scooter will afford options to the riders as well. So next steps. As I mentioned, the key terms in the MOU are included in the staff report. UC Davis met with the riders last week regarding ongoing input after the publication of the staff report. The route will be monitored through automated passenger counters on the SAC-RT vehicles, and ridership data will be available on a quarterly basis. We're willing to work with UCD on any process that they would like to establish for coordinated monitoring, and we'll have data available to support that process going forward. We have a number of other items to address as well, including testing, training, and public information regarding the service. These vehicles are being delivered, and we are greatly appreciative of the Electrify America, UCD, City of Sacramento, and CMAQ funding supporting the service. As good partners, stewards of public funding, and in the interest of providing a zero-emission service option to our region as early as possible, staff recommends board approval of the item and implementation of the new Causeway Connection route in April of 2020.
All right. All right, board, we have 15 members of the public signed up to speak. I know we probably have a lot of questions. I see Director Natoli would like to ask questions. Do you want to hear from the public first?
Sure, that's fine, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to go before the public? No? Okay. I'm going to call people one at a time. I believe that the counter is working up there, but it's not working back here. So everybody has 2 minutes. The lights will flash, and we'll just try to get through everybody in a proficient way. Yemi Olowoyiyi. Was it close? Yes. Okay, thanks. I was practicing before I started. Didn't help. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. To briefly summarize the events to date, 3 weeks ago, the board expressed their concerns about several aspects of the proposal by SAC-RT, YCTD, and UC Davis to terminate the Davis Intercampus Shuttle and replace it with the new Causeway Connection service. The board encouraged key transportation planners to work with shuttle riders to, quote-unquote, get to a yes. Over the past 3 weeks, we have met with planners from SAC-RT and the mayor's office on a proposal that would get to that yes, with varying degrees of success. The bus schedule, including the planned route and number of express buses, has been revised extensively, we believe to the benefit of almost everyone. There has been major movement on the fare so that this new service continues to be affordable, not only to UC Davis faculty, students, and staff, but also to those members of the public who are interested in using public transit to get to Davis. These changes have all been great and have gone a long way in getting us to yes. However, there remain issues of serious concern, touching on safety, longevity, oversight, and data analysis. We believe these issues need to be resolved formally in order to make sure that the Causeway Connection is an adequate replacement for the Intercampus Shuttle to maximize rider safety and guarantee reliable campus connectivity for the foreseeable future. We also want to note that, as transit riders, it is not easy for us to also be present at the simultaneous YCTD board meeting tonight, but our statements here would be repeated if we could do so. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Alana Furl. After Ms. Furl is Mike Delgado. After Mike is Hyun-Soo Gloria Kim.
Okay.
Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Alana Furl. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you tonight. The initial Causeway Connection draft that was presented on November 18th was problematic to the point of risking cancellation of UC Davis intercampus volunteer and internship programs. In response to these concerns, the board encouraged shuttle riders to work with the stakeholder agencies to find a way to get to yes. We've been working hard since then, and with particular thanks to James Drake at SAC-RT and Julia Burrows from Mayor Steinberg's office, the fare structure, bus schedule, and route are greatly improved. Intercampus programs at UC Davis should now be able to continue through the April rollout of the new service. So for this, we're really, really grateful. We still have concerns about the 5 main areas that we hope to touch on. The lack of seat belts on this intercity passenger bus that traverses a major highway at high speeds. The very short, we think, 3-year commitment that SAC-RT and YOLA Bus have made to support this service. Still only 3 full-size bikes per bus allowed on these new buses, despite high current demand for bike capacity. 4, uncertainty about how the various agencies plan to provide serious oversight of this service. And 5, the lack of clarity about data collection, analysis, and reporting. We consider these remaining issues a real obstacle to guaranteeing that these buses continue to serve the existing 500-plus UC Davis-affiliated transit riders, as well as meeting increased public demand. We very strongly believe that resolving these issues will ensure the success of the new route. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mike Delgado. And if people want to line up after, are you Mike Delgado?
Michael.
Oh, Michael.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hi.
Yes. Sorry, I missed the L.
That's okay. Thanks for letting us continue to have this
absolutely.
conversation. I'm Michael Delgado. So from 1992 to 2017, I lived without a car. And I was living in the Bay Area. I routinely took BART, Muni, AC Transit, or I walked and biked everywhere I needed to go. I now live in Sacramento, and I was very happy to learn that there was a shuttle that I could take to my job in Davis. In fact, I bought a house within biking distance of that shuttle because I don't want to drive to work. I want to take public transit. However, I also want to get to work safely. I really appreciate the efforts that have been made to meet our requests and, on fares, scheduling, the bus route, but I am still concerned about the fact that our requests for seatbelts are not being met. Sacramento ranks fifth in the list of nation's worst drivers, and in 2017, we're actually ranked the worst. Data on traffic collisions on the causeway suggests that there's an average of about 200 accidents, or collisions, I guess is a better term for it, on the causeway every year. And there's a movement to provide seatbelts for all vehicles on the roads, and that's, they're for obvious reasons. SB 20 was a step in the right direction. Even if it does not apply to these buses, it's still, I think, a movement. And data suggesting that buses are safe and may not need seatbelts are typically based on vehicles with high-sided, padded, exclusively forward-facing seats, like in school buses. We know that the planned buses for the causeway do not have these features, and in fact will have sideways-facing seats and standing passengers who could be projectiles in an accident, who could harm themselves, and could also harm others on the bus. I don't drive in my car without a seatbelt, ever. I don't ride in other people's cars without a seatbelt, and I definitely wear my seatbelt on the shuttle. So please don't ask me to ride to work on the freeway without a seatbelt, where people routinely drive 75 to 80 miles per hour, where there are around 4 collisions per week, and where some of the nation's worst drivers are sharing the road with us.
Thank you for your comments. Hyun Soo Gloria Kim. After her is Amy Fletcher, and then Lisa Rosenthal. If people want to line up, that might make it a little bit more efficient. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my remarks tonight. Given that these buses will be traveling on a major highway and are expected to reach speeds of 70 miles per hour, it is deeply concerning that they are not equipped with seatbelts. No responsible adult in this room would agree to travel 20 blocks from here to City Hall without putting on a seatbelt, so how can it be okay to transport hundreds of people across the causeway every day without seatbelts? The National Transportation Safety Board released its most wanted list of transportation safety improvements for 2008. Who knew that 11 years later we would be arguing about whether seatbelts are necessary for inner-city travel because a retrofit would be too expensive? There is a federal law that requires seatbelts on inner-city buses because they reduce highway fatalities by 77%. This project is already very expensive, and it is appalling that an obvious safety feature was not prioritized here. It is costing up to $12,000 to wrap each bus in blue and gold for a total cost of over $160,000. Surely we can afford the time and expense of 400 3- or 4-point seatbelts to significantly increase every rider's chance of surviving a serious crash. Earlier tonight, I heard customers first. Let's make sure that as this project enters its final phase, the safety of riders remains the first priority of our transportation planners, not in 3 years, but now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Amy Fletcher, and then Lisa Rosenthal. After Lisa is Alice Fisher.
Hi, my name is Amy Fletcher, and I'm a UC Davis staff member who uses the shuttle and my bike not only to get to work, but to get around campus for my job responsibilities, and I'll be reading a letter from Saba that was addressed to Henry Lee. Dear Henry, as you may know, the Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates, Saba, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to safe streets for cyclists and pedestrians and for a seamless transportation system that allows more people to get out of their cars for daily trips to work and play. We know that the first mile, last mile solutions are an important piece in the puzzle in supporting people in leaving their cars at home, and solutions need to be useful for those that don't own a car or have a disability which makes it impossible for them to use one. So while we applaud the new electric buses, we urge RT to ensure the safety of riders with seatbelts and adequate bike racks to shuttle more people and their bicycles between Davis and Sacramento. If the older buses could accommodate 15 bicycles, which, as an addendum, was true up until this summer when there was a change, and that was full capacity, then it is short-sighted to minimize bike racks down to 3 bikes per run. Our current bike capacity per day is 120 full-size bikes. That's 15 runs with 8 bikes, while new capacity is only 78 bikes per day. leaving unacceptably limited bike capacity in the express service where it is most needed. Increasing bike capacity decreases the need for people to drive to the shuttle, which represents a cost savings to the university as they will need to build fewer parking structures in lots, not to mention the obvious added health benefits of biking. We urge you to consider solutions to increase bicycle capacity to match current bus capacity at 8 bicycles per run of the hourly express service between UC Davis and Sacramento. We think this is a path towards increased ridership and will expand the distance around each stop where riders are willing and able to travel from home and work. Sincerely, Deborah Banks, Acting Executive Director of SABA. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Lisa? And then Alice, and then Tara, your soul.
Okay. Board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Any successful Green Cities plan has to include incentives to encourage increased bicycle use, given that it emits no greenhouse gases, and it's the best way to solve the first and last mile issue. Davis is the bicycle capital of the U.S., and Sacramento has made many recent positive and encouraging steps to increase bicycle use, particularly with the addition of protected bike lanes to the city's busiest streets. These changes have been welcome. However, for many bike users, a large problem is how to integrate bike use with public transit. I don't know of any other group of commuters in all of Sacramento and Yolo counties that is so willing to integrate bicycles, who is so willing to literally carry our bikes from one county to the next, because doing so cuts down on car traffic and ensures that we get home or to work safely. How many potential additional riders will be discouraged when they get to the bus and see that it only has room for 3 bikes? The response that up to 3 buses per hour, there is actually room for 9 bikes every hour is short-sighted. Why shouldn't there be a potential to transport 20 bikes every hour? Why shouldn't we get 20 more cars off the road, off the causeway, every single hour? The other answer, that bike locks, keep in mind, only at the medical center, as opposed to also at the UC Davis campus, will be constructed, and that rental bikes are available, isn't very encouraging. A recent study by the Seattle Department of Transportation found over 1/3 of jump bikes and over half of Lime bikes were unrentable. Many times I've come across jump bikes and they just have a little flashing mechanical error. A service that's meant to be a blueprint and a model for electric-powered public transportation in this country should be absolutely maximizing bike usage rather than reducing it. We asked to match the current 8 bike capacity on each new bus, and that has not been met. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Alice Fisher, then Tara Ursel, and then Jason Moore.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Many of us here are staunch patrons of the Intercampus Shuttle, which has been in service for the past 30 years. Many of us hopped on during Fix 50, intrigued by the idea of giving up our cars and trying a new way of commuting to work. The shuttle began with a desire to maintain a strong connection between the campus in Davis and the Medical Center in Sacramento, but has grown to represent a connection between the cities themselves. The reason is simple. Housing is in short supply almost everywhere in California. People are being pushed to live further and further away from their place of work, placing upward pressure on intercity traffic. At the height of the semester, the rental vacancy in Davis is estimated at 0.5%. Sacramento rental vacancy is around 2.7%. Shuttle riders represent those who have made the best of this situation. We've made significant life decisions and long-term commitments based on this bus service, where to live and work, to attend school, which daycares to entrust with our children. It is alarming that the Causeway Connection Service is only on contract for 3 years, according to the draft MOU, and with absolutely no guarantee that the shuttle will continue if SAC-RD, YCTD, or UCD decide to pull out. The question isn't where that will leave shuttle riders. The question is where it will leave this entire region as a whole. Please ensure that the MOU spells out a plan for a real long-term commitment to this new service. Please be willing to make the same long-term bet that so many of us here have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tara? Then Jason, and then I can't get the sheets apart. Rose Cabral. Thank you, Tara.
Board members, thank you for the chance to speak. On November 6th, the first open houses that were held at UC Davis after the official announcement of the service were frankly alarming. For example, the original posted schedule would have severely disrupted or ended intercampus volunteer and internship programs, and well-known park and ride stops at UC Davis had been eliminated. We believe these initial issues were the result of an egregious lack of data. Data about the exact ridership numbers, commute times in various types of traffic, and existing commuter schedules. We voiced these concerns at the November 6th open houses, and by November 18th, nothing had been addressed. Even board members were unable to get answers to some of their questions about commute times or scheduling. We want to see a real plan for data-driven route planning moving forward. The draft MOU briefly mentions the use of automatic counters and GPS-based location tracking devices that provide real-time location data. The MOU also needs to spell out a detailed, rigorous, and timely schedule for data analysis and reporting. Who will be collecting, analyzing, and reporting on this data? How will it be shared among the major stakeholders and agencies with oversight? Simply making the data available to anyone who asks for it is not effective. We need evidence-based decision-making written into the MOU. It will go a long way to ensure the continued success of the Causeway Connection. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Moore, and then thank you. Jason Moore is next.
Thank you for having me tonight. I have ridden the UC Davis campus intercampus shuttle for the last 5 years. Neither my wife nor I own a car, and I either walk, bicycle, or use mass transit to get everywhere I need to go in life, and I have done so for the last 18 years. I accepted my job at UC Davis and chose my home location in Sacramento based on the fact that there is a flexible hourly direct transit option from the UCD Med Center to the UCD campus. I have made deliberate and sacrificial decision to be a better steward of our environment and to be a better contributor to my community with these choices. There are hundreds of thousands of people just like me who have found a fulfilling job that happens to be more than 15 miles from home. Unlike me, though, most of them aren't willing to stop commuting in their own cars for one simple reason. They see public transportation as unreliable and less convenient. With shuttle riders, however, you have those people who are willing to leave their cars at home, figure out how to get from home to the bus stop and from the bus to school or work in bad weather and darkness, rely on a vehicle they don't own, sit in the causeway in absolutely brutal traffic. People driving their cars might think we're not making the logical choice, but we have always known, that the hassles of transit are absolutely worth it. Please don't make the decisions that consider short-term financial constraints at the expense of the safety and personal cost of the riders. Please strongly consider changes that we have asked for with respect to seatbelts, bike racks, effective data gathering, and a long-term plan for this service. You've seen us waving signs that say, "Please don't throw us under the bus." Instead, don't we all want to ride that bus into a better future for all of us? Thank you.
Thank you. Rose Cabral, then Mike Barnbaum, and Matt Dulcich.
Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. I want to end with a reminder of how we got here tonight. You are our elected representatives. We chose you to govern and ensure the preservation and continued elevation of the public good. We expect that you will choose and rely on staff to successfully administer this and other projects aimed at benefiting the public. It was clear that the original Causeway Connection plan wasn't realistic for anybody. Not for the members of the public interested in traveling between Sacramento and Davis, not for UC Davis students who rely on the shuttle to get to work, study, and internships, and not for the regular commuters who have relied on the current shuttle for 30 years. Wouldn't it have been easier to include them in the process from the start? And now, even though you are ahead of the originally proposed September 2020 rollout date, there seems to be a rush to approve an incomplete plan. We have clearly identified the areas where the Causeway Connection has met riders' needs, as well as those areas that need work. We ask that you take our concerns seriously and continue working to address them so that this service can be safe, efficient, and effective. Attention to these details will ensure that the Causeway Connection can be a successful model of innovative transportation for others to aspire to. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mike Barnbaum, and then Matt Dulcich, then Helen O'Connell.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hansen, members of the board, staff, and members of the public at home and in the audience. My name is Mike Barnbaum, and after carefully reviewing what happened here in the room on November 18th, the staff report that came out last week and coming into tonight, Mr. Vice President, I'm prepared to make a motion to adopt the 4 resolutions in the issue paper, maintain a stakeholders group that will continue to monitor and point out what's right and what's wrong about the service as it starts on Monday, April 6th, 2020. Name the Route 138, the Causeway connection, and make a comment here on one part of the issue paper, which reads, in the long run, the parties may want to consider elimination of one or more of the Davis stops to allow for more stops in downtown Sacramento. But for the initial launch, staff believes that maintaining greater similarity to the existing shuttle is a prudent strategy to maximize ridership retention and customer satisfaction, while still allowing some opportunities for growth. That makes perfect sense. One of the considerations perhaps the stakeholders group could consider in the long run is an invitation to John Lucas to the stakeholders group, the executive director of UTAPS at CSUS, and consider the downtown location at 304 S Street with potential expansion to 6000 J Street. Because remember, you can't have Causeway unless you really think of the Causeway Classic. And that involves both the UC and the CSU at the table.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Matt? After Matt is Helen, and then Will Beers.
Good evening to the entire board. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Matt Dulcich. I'd like to share a few comments. On behalf of UC Davis, we are very excited about this agenda item and the launch of the new Causeway Connection service. We believe that this collaboration is a great example of public agencies working together to build efficient partnerships. And this effort that has emerged to replace and improve on the existing UC Davis chartered service started with these principles of increasing the frequency, attracting more riders, and finding additional partners. I believe we have achieved those goals due to the collaboration and assistance from your staff and from all of the regional partners. From the rider outreach efforts in October and November, totaling more than 14 hours of input and direct conversations, and then extended conversations continuing even through last week, we believe that the proposed service will be very successful. We strongly believe and support in moving forward at this time. We are continuing within UC Davis to explore UC Davis options at both of the campuses to improve mobility so that riders using the new service have additional shuttle options and benefits to reach their destinations. As presented tonight, the new Causeway Connection Partnership will create that high-frequency service connecting major employment centers within our region with a great new transit service. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for your comments. Helen O'Connell. Helen, we have a microphone for you.
Gotcha. Hello, my name is Helen O'Connell, and I'm in support of the students' need for safety and the amount of bicycles availability. They've done this for 30 years. I think they know what they need to be able to function. I think if you put this off a few months until the end of June, when their semester is over, it would be a smoother transition, and they might be able to figure out how to make this transition even better than it would be if you did it in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Will Barry. Your handwriting had a little...
Beers for later.
Beers for later, okay. Apologies for that.
No worries.
Go ahead.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Will Barry, and I'm the manager of the Electrify America Green City program. Electrify America tonight urges support for approval of the Causeway Connection intercity bus service. This service is an essential pillar for the overall Green City program, which is bringing over $40 million in zero-emission vehicle and technology investments to the Sacramento region. Other Green City investment pillars include 2 separate all-electric vehicle car share services, 13 ultra-fast DC fast charging stations with 58 dispensers, 3 green power battery electric shuttles for the Franklin Boulevard Smart Ride system, and then the item before us right now, 4.1, 12 battery electric Proterra buses, along with the acquisition, permitting, and installation of the DC fast charge infrastructure to support that. In total, in the infrastructure, there'll be 3 350 kilowatt chargers for Sacramento Regional Transit, 3 350 kilowatt chargers as well for YOLO, plus 1 150 kilowatt charger, both at UC Davis Medical Center, as well as one at UC Davis campus. In terms of process, the Causeway Connection service was selected via a public RFP process in 2019. The proposal was awarded based on many public and stakeholder benefits that Electrify America is very excited to see come to life in the months ahead. Some of those, I'm already out of time. Some of those benefits include the removal of emissions for the current private chartered bus service at 168 kilograms of NOx emissions per year, and this helps contribute to Mayor Steinberg's 2040 climate plan. It also provides an increase in route frequency as stated. It provides a new, better service, better connecting the
Thank you
cities
for your comments. Your time is up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sarah Kerber, and then our last speaker will be Julia Burrows. Welcome, Sarah.
Sarah Kerber with the Sacramento Transit Riders Union. This is not the first time that we find ourselves here in recent history because of poor vehicle design that has been purchased by our regional transit district. This should be a learning moment for staff and the board to make sure that vehicle design is reviewed in a meaningful way by the public prior to purchase. We have a lot of vehicles that are coming through SMART, through our low floor vehicle redesign, through making our fleet entirely electric. All of these vehicles should be reviewed by the MAC, by the public, by the board to make sure that they meet our needs going forward. We encourage you to continue the processes that you've put in place of doing robust public engagement and encourage partners that you engage with on projects to also do the same. We believe that making sure that meaningful review by the public and by using the MAC to review vehicles prior to purchase will improve vehicle purchase in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our last speaker is Julia Burrows.
Good evening, Vice Chair Hansen and SAC-RT board members. 3 points tonight. The first is I want to express our gratitude to the Riders Coalition and to making themselves available. All of the comments that all of you gave are a tribute to UC Davis and the great institution that we have in this region. This is a better proposal than was before you in November. And so many, many thanks to them. Also, notes of gratitude to the SAC-RT staff and the YOLO bus staff. They literally worked over Thanksgiving weekend to make sure that this item came back tonight. So many thanks to James and Henry, your team, Laura. They're fantastic at what they do, and we'll be going straight from here to the YOLO bus meeting to express our gratitude there tonight as well. Second is timeline and urgency. Electrify America's commitment to our region is, in this case, poised upon service beginning 45 days after delivery. That's why we're asking you to approve the service tonight for April start. We really want to try to have the students write it for the third quarter of this school year. So rather than postponing to June or September, that's why we're requesting the timeline that we're requesting. And the final point is I feel on the list of items that were asked for by the riders, the stops and schedule is really, really the top item, and hours were spent on renegotiating that. We cannot add seatbelts to these buses. That's not a decision point. And I want to just represent that we feel we addressed a majority of the comments that came from the writers group. And thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. I have Director Natoli first. Anyone else? Director Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of follow-ons. Obviously, in the correspondence that we've received since the last time we heard this 3 weeks ago, this evening's comments, and I think the staff report. One of the things that really, I think, drew my attention and continues to, and I guess I want to get a little more information about that. And this relates to the equipping the buses, and whether it be the ones now. I heard Julia just a moment ago, but certainly I know staff outlined in our staff report a number of reasons why they don't believe that to be either practical or doable at this point in time. I will say, though, that from the get-go, that that seems to me to be a very, very important element. And so I guess I would look to Henry or to someone else. What is the time frame? Because one of the things that's talked about in the staff report and in my briefing earlier this morning, Henry, you mentioned on the phone that after we implement this service, assuming the buses are implemented with the current seat array and no seat belts, that there would be additional acquisitions. I don't know what the life cycle is for these buses, but I guess if we're looking at this, I wanted to know, is that 3 years out? Is that a year out when you begin to introduce those into the fleet? What is the time schedule? Again, you have brand new buses that we're pushing to, because of the agreement to put into service with this proposed Causeway Connector. But I'm curious about when would buses, assuming that was direction out of this evening, working with Yolo County Transit, that to put the next purchase of buses with seatbelts. When is the earliest that could happen, and what would be the implementation schedule for those that are concerned about that particular aspect?
Likely about 2 years.
Okay.
That's just the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it depends upon what? The amount of miles on buses?
Actually, depend on the new buses we expect to get is based on the state money and the local money availability. Because we need to replace all the existing buses with the electric buses. And if everything goes as planned, we should have a fund from state and hopefully from local, to start to replace our existing buses with EVs.
So what you're saying is that it would be dependent upon, obviously, other funding sources beyond the grant that has funded this or the settlement, but that in order to have buses that were equipped with seatbelts, it would come out of another purchase, and then you could displace these buses, use them elsewhere.
We hope we can swap. Yeah,
swap out.
Yeah, in next 2 years, if we can buy the new buses, we will definitely the first order of the buses to have the seat belts, then to replace the existing buses, the buses for the Causeway, and we have to work with EAs, to say if you guys can allow us to do that. But I hope you guys will be flexible at that time. So this is some thought in our mind for a while to address this issue.
So in the work that we've done, both, and again, kudos to all those who have worked on this, and they've all been mentioned this evening, and again, including the getting DS representatives from the riders, then is that the commitment in the agreement? I don't see that's not an actionable item tonight. Obviously, we don't have the money to purchase those buses, but who is then going to be responsible for implementing that? Because again, we own 6 buses. Yolo County Transit District will have 6 buses. How are we going to assure, again, I take your word for it and so forth, but that would be the first order of business, is that any new money for electric buses coming to this district would be for those that could be swapped out for this service.
Yes, that's the plan.
And where is that committed to is that in the resolution this evening?
Not here, but that's what, from staff's, proposal to the board, and hopefully, if the funding will be available, whenever that will be available, we will immediately put that, plan together for board to approve. So, but right now, I really cannot say when and
okay,
how.
I get
but
that.
2 years would be a reasonable time frame.
Henry, you've answered my question there. I guess I think that from the standpoint of putting into words what has been expressed in good faith amongst those who've been negotiating this now very intensely for the last 3 weeks, I think it would serve everyone well if that were the understanding, and recognizing that that's a qualified commitment in the sense that you have the money and you have to know you're going to purchase new buses, but that would be not only the intent, as you stated it, and again, I trust what people are saying. I just think it's important from the standpoint of, the discussions that have taken place. And I guess I'll reference that, I would like to make this comment because I don't know all the particulars as to why there was this late engagement with those that are the current users and riders of the service. But it would seem to me that if folks had been able to engage earlier on, about the time when people were talking about buses and working under the Electrify America grant program, that this issue in particular, again, it's not discounting any good work here or and I'm not assigning any ill intent, but this particular issue could have been addressed at that time. But again, by the time this got to us 3 weeks ago, and by the time riders were aware of it maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, buses are on order. They're ready for delivery, and now we're in this period of time, and I get it. In 45 days, once they arrive, we got to put them into service. And so, again, I'm not trying to be critical here, but in my view, part of the lesson learned here is early engagement, particularly if you're going to make it, and maybe this is unique in that you don't have this circumstance very often where you're displacing a coach service with a more traditional transit bus. But I think safety is a preeminent consideration for everybody, whether it's this board, for you, for the riders, for the operators, and for the university and others. And it would seem to me that this issue could very well have been addressed. It may have resulted in, having to deal with money in order to accommodate that. But it's difficult for me to discount a safety concern of this nature. I think that with a commitment, though, that, these would be replaced and or swapped out with another purchase of buses. I mean, that goes a long ways, and that's why I'd like to see that somehow incorporated into the discussion this evening, but also into the resolutions that we have before us this evening.
Thank you for your constructive criticism, and we, believe it or not, and we, staff.
I wasn't meaning to be critical. I'm just talking about my thoughts on this. So.
We deserve that. I mean, because we did not. In the last 2 months, we staff, had many meetings, doing some, soul searching why we did not, think about that in the past. And we take the responsibility, we take the blame. This is a great lesson, for us to learn. And we will work with our partners in the future to make sure, we can do, proactively, plan, schedule, and make sure this will not, happen like this. And we did a wonderful, outreach in almost all other major initiatives. And Sacramento Ford, we spent 2 years to do the the marketing, promotion, outreach activities, and many others. But this one, we will learn from this, and we will try to make up on this.
Thank you, Henry. Well, just one other comment. I think it goes to that looking forward, at least in my view, and this has been something that was in the documents of getting a yes, and there were a number of things that were spoken to, but was the data collection and data sharing as we go forward. And, there's a number of reference points as to what people, certainly riders, but I think obviously funders and operators would want. And I think that in an effort to, build on a relationship that may have gotten a bit of a rocky start here with at least this most current proposal, it would seem to me that's something that we ought to have a protocol for and make sure that, as we look at it from the standpoint of one of the operators, as much as the students and other users, riders, and certainly funders, that we ought to have a maybe agreed upon set of circumstances and protocols for sharing and gathering that data. That would be, I think, helpful to everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to emphasize, I want to share the appreciation to all the, the faculty staff from UC Davis for some wonderful comments and for the constructive criticism. And lots of great points, and we would love to work with them in the future to see how we can make this service better and better every day. Just wanted to share that.
Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director. Director Miller.
Oh, thank you. Director Natoli asked a lot of questions I was going to ask, but one thing, and I may not have been paying attention in September, but are these buses used elsewhere? Is there a track record on these? I'm just wondering what the reliability is, and again, whenever we go through changes, I make sure to promise problems and have a plan for those problems, and I'm sure we'd use
Laura or
I
James,
think
you
we're,
wanna-
the rep from EA, would be better to answer this question. Yeah. Because they're the ones who, is responsible for purchasing those vehicles.
Sure. Proterra is a company that manufactured these buses here in California. They're in City of Industry. In terms of other regional transportation providers, they've been used for many municipalities throughout the state of California and nationwide. I'm sorry, I don't. If I had known that question was coming, I would have had that answer lined up for you. But I can assure you that a quick Google search will reveal that, in fact, these types of buses are being used in many municipalities.
Very reliable?
That's correct.
I was just concerned, we'd get those consecutive 108-degree days, how the buses will perform. And
sure.
And with that in mind, just that we had a plan to send another bus out, maybe not electric, one of our regular fleet, if that should happen. But no, I was just curious if this was patent pending, serial number 1, or
Right. Multiple climates, hot and cold, throughout the United States and within the state of California.
I'm excited to see how this goes.
Great. Thank you very much, sir.
Any other directors who'd like to speak? We're still waiting. Director Hume, anyone else?
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate the comments from Director Natoli. I think they were very eloquent and spot on, and hopefully is a learning lesson going forward on how to maybe be a little more proactive on the front end to avoid some of this reaction that I think we have that's legitimate. And I would say this, that I think in the areas that we can change at this point, staff and the ridership created that pathway to yes and did a lot to make a better system. And so I appreciate all of the collaboration that happened amongst the different agencies. And I can also appreciate the justification for needing to launch this at the point that we're looking to do it in April, as opposed to waiting, given the window after delivery, as well as maybe using that third term as the test period, and then we can make the tweaks to have something that's even more solid come for the fall term. So I realize I was strongly in favor of my motion the last time we heard this, but I will come off of that and move staff's current recommendation.
We have a motion from Director Hume, a second from Director Harris. Director Budge.
Yeah, just a couple notes. I do also agree with the third quarter implementation, because it seems much better to have a trial period than to just begin in the fall when everything is confusing and hectic to begin with. I appreciate Don's comments about the public process and needing to talk to people. These people, they have so clearly, the writers have so clearly articulated the 5 points that were important to them. And certainly in all the correspondence we've received, as well as tonight, the 2 seat belts and bike rack issues. Bike racks, of course, are completely unique to Davis, and that should not really have been a surprise. And I completely understand the inability to retrofit this thing, knowing what it's like to have a vehicle with where the whole bottom end of this vehicle is nothing but giant batteries. But I totally agree with Don that there needs to be some formalization, some memorialization of your commitment to switch to more what are perceived as being more safe buses at the earliest point possible. Obviously, you don't have any ability to commit a time frame to that, but just stating it somewhere is a very good idea.
Okay.
And that would be my request.
Director Howell.
Can we even make that commitment on behalf of Yellow Transit?
No, we
If
cannot.
we own 6 of the buses. and
Yeah,
they
we
do
only
it.
do 6 buses from ourselves.
I know.
We cannot
So
do that.
my point being, that's all well and good, but does that mean if we replace our buses before YOLO does, that people are going to only ride every other bus? I know that sounds silly, but I think that needs to be a consideration.
No, if we can do
cannot
it,
take action
do that
or make a
earlier by
commitment
ourselves, we
on
will do
behalf
it.
of YOLO.
if we can do that earlier, we will have, we would like to do
No,
it.
I know, but we can only act on behalf of RT. We can't
Yeah.
make any promises on behalf of YOLO. So I just want that to be clear to everybody. And I agree with doing this sooner rather than later, and I believe I said that at the last meeting. I think it gives us more opportunity to get the kinks worked out, and I'm really, really glad that everybody's not getting everything that they want, but given that UC was going to cancel the service altogether, I think I think this is a good place to land for the time being. With regard to the length of the contract, several people at this meeting and at previous meetings have effectively said that if there's no seatbelts, they're not going to ride it. So I don't know why we would want to go forward with a longer-term commitment on a program that we don't yet know. We haven't even tried it. So I think we need to see how it goes, and we need to see if we either cut down the service or we double the service, or everybody's happy, they're not happy. We have to start somewhere, and I think this is a good place, and I'd like to see it sooner rather than later so that the UC system doesn't eliminate it before we can get a replacement in operation. So I support the motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll speak to the motion.
One second. Anybody else want to speak? No. Director Natoli?
Yeah, just I want to speak to the motion. So I heard the motion for staff recommendation. As I said earlier, would like to see some memorialization of the swap out commitment. However we do that, recognizing obviously they're I said earlier that I think that's a qualified, but one that nonetheless could be a very strong commitment. And I take Henry at his word. I would like to see that inserted. And I guess I didn't hear how with the data and so forth, that was part of getting the yes as to, are we going to, may not need to be a part of motion, but is there going to be some effort then to establish the protocols for sharing that and gathering that from the get-go?
Mr. Natoli, because I haven't given my comments
Okay,
yet, maybe I can address some of that too. Yes, Director Budge.
There's always a possibility that Julia and Sparky and the riders will take that to Yolo County tonight.
Potentially as well. Without anyone else, I'd just like to give some comments before we make the vote. At the last meeting, I was very impressed with the UC Davis riders. Very thoughtful, informative. Clearly, the riders who came then and now are a tribute to the university. And if you choose to ride with us, you'll only enhance our service. And I think the points you raised are really important. I did push pretty hard on our staff since the last meeting about the seatbelt issue. I haven't tried to twist Henry's arm, which is why he has a shoulder problem, on outfitting our 6 buses with seatbelts. But I think it was pretty clear that might not be the best use of public funds at this juncture. But I do believe, given all the directors who commented on that between Henry, our board's direction, and the YOLO bus and their staff and their board, that we will do our best to swap out these buses. I think there are a lot of other points that are important. Pioneering electric buses in our region is a really important statement of our climate values, a really important statement of the values of why public transit is important and has to be at the leading edge of these changes. And so while we have made a tremendous amount of progress on some of the operational issues, I think the riders will continue to push us to make sure the service is effective. While these buses may have the bike limit because of the design, I think that as we go forward, there are a couple things I'd like to have either incorporated into the motion as direction, or otherwise we can work with our staff on bringing back. One is just to continue the stakeholder outreach. And it's clear that we've got some of the best riders, smart people thinking about this stuff. And so I think it would be a loss to not continue to work with the riders on whether it's the analysis and data or just overall the experience, because this is sort of a pilot program, which is why it's 3 years. UC Davis, Yolo County Transit District, and us, we're trying to do something very different for our region. And so I think it's important that we collaborate through this process because it's going to evolve. I think by its very nature, it will evolve. The second thing is, given the lack of seatbelts, I think that riders, it would be useful to think about some rider education for how to ride these buses, because these are different than the buses that have been ridden. And if there's some safety protocols or things about using these buses while you're on the freeway, I think that would be a helpful thing as we launch the service, which it sounds like we're going to approve tonight, assuming YOLO Bus does as well. And the final thing is, I think Sarah Kerber made a very good point. We should have some vehicle procurement guidelines come before the board that are just general but help lay out some of the criteria related to bike access related to seat belts, particularly for inner city buses or vehicles that might go on the highway, so that we don't miss these things. Usually the board isn't reviewing these things as closely as we need to, and I think, Henry, I really appreciate you taking that constructive criticism so well. So those are the things I'd like us to continue to work on, and I'm supportive of the motion. So anyone else? Nope. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously.
Motion,
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, motion carries at 100 votes.
Madam Clerk, next item.
Oh, Dawn is a powerful individual.
Yeah. Don could have tanked the whole thing if he wanted to. I know.
Okay, so the knowledge that
Madam Clerk, will you call the next item, please?
Certainly.
No, I know.
Item 5.1, hold a public hearing on the initial study proposed mitigated negative declaration for the Folsom Light Rail Modernization 15-minute service project presented by Laura Ham.
Good
Thank you,
evening
Laura.
again. Hi. I would like to present to you tonight the initial study and proposed mitigated negative declaration for the Folsom Light Rail Modernization Project. We have Rodney Young from AECOM here tonight to give you a brief presentation on the study.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
My pleasure. It's great to be here this evening. My name is Rod Jung. I'm with AECOM, and I had the honor of being the project manager on this particular project. With me tonight is Alan Boone, who led the engineering design effort. So what I'd like to do tonight is go over very quickly, if I can move this forward. Here we go. Nope. Okay. Sorry about that delay. So tonight's presentation really is going to cover a couple of agenda items. And the first thing I want to do is provide a really quick overview to the project. I think most of you are very familiar with it, and it's been something long, long desired. The second is to provide an overview, not so much for you, because I know you've been through this, but for the benefit of the public who may not be familiar with the California Environmental Quality Act and its process. And then the third part is really to provide the public with an opportunity to provide comments on the draft environmental document that was released on November 13th. We have till December 12th to receive comments on that document, and so that's how I'd like to begin. The objectives for this project are pretty straightforward. They've been defined for quite some time, and it really boils down to three specific things. The first is to provide 15-minute service along the GOLD line between the Sunrise Station and the historic Folsom Station. The second is to provide better operational flexibility for the GOLD line light rail service. And then the third is to enable service to continue if perchance a light rail vehicle becomes disabled. And would like to be able to continue mainline service. In order to accomplish those particular objectives, there are several improvements that need to be made to the existing line. These improvements are basically focused on the segment between, as I said earlier, the Sunrise Station and the historic Folsom Station. The improvements include double track segments in 2 locations, adding new loading platforms at the 2 existing stations at Glen and Hazel, and the third important component would be to upgrade the signal system over that stretch. The next set of slides is really to provide some orientation and some sense of where these project improvements are proposed along the alignment. So this...
I'm sorry, can we back up just a little bit? I have a question about the previous slide.
Oh, Director Howell, would you like to be recognized?
Thank you. Yes.
Please proceed.
Okay, so
or should I call you Mayor Howell?
The third bullet item says upgrade signal and circuitry system.
Yes.
And that the bullet item there appears to talk about efficient operation of the warning device and crossing gates, but I think it's important to understand that the other thing that will happen is that the signal lights in the roadway will also be changed out so that will allow free flow of traffic going east and west on Folsom Boulevard to proceed going east and west, even if there's a train there, because right now that is not the case.
Excellent point. Yes.
Sorry, I'm the one that's been making Henry crazy over this for the last year. So.
Henry, I hope you're doing well. And I forgot to mention earlier, congratulations on your award. Okay. Continuing, just for orientation again, the blue line on this figure on the left essentially shows the gold line. I know, that sounds funny. The blue line shows the gold line. But the yellow highlighted areas represent the two segments where the double track would occur. It's gold highlighted. And I tried to use blue and gold because of the Sacramento colors. And also for a moment of humor there. Let's go on to the next slide. Zooming in a little bit more on what we're calling the Folsom Project segment, it affects a 0.6 mile segment where the double tracks are going to be proposed. It's essentially centered on the Glen Station. And so at the southern end, it'll be at the Bidwell Street, and at the northern end, it'll be at Park Shore Drive. Other way, sorry. The Rancho Cordova project segment extends from the city limits of Rancho Cordova and extends into unincorporated Sacramento County. This segment is about 1.2 miles, and in addition to the double tracks and the station improvements, which will occur both at Glen and here at Hazel, this segment would also result in a shifting of the UP freight line in order to accommodate that second track for SAC-RT light rail service. That relocation of the UP alignment, that freight track, will require a very, very small sliver of land, about 0.2 acres of the Aerojet property. That Aerojet property is about 80 acres. And then I did want to make...
Is that parcel in the existing rail JPA easement? Sac Placerville Transportation JPA? Okay.
This is in addition to what's already included in the right-of-way.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So I wanted to provide this slide because during the course of some of our earlier scoping meetings, there was a lot of confusion over what it meant to have low-floor vehicles. And part of the reason that the new platforms are being added, and there's a little bit of retrofit occurring at Glen and Hazel, is to accommodate the low-floor vehicle. And the whole point of this slide is just for people to see that the floor of the low-floor vehicles is at the same level as the sidewalk, so that there's going to be easier ingress and egress, and there's not going to be the need for the high platforms that currently exist. So this is what would be provided at the new platforms at Glen and Hazel. Oh, the benefits of the project are essentially the same objectives that I mentioned earlier: the 15-minute service, the increased number of train service that would be provided along the segment from Sunrise to historic Folsom. It also, importantly, and this is what was brought up earlier by the chair, is that it would reduce the delays at the 14 existing at-grade crossings, and that circuitry would allow the gate time to be reduced. And so overall, the traffic delays that people experience now would be less. The actual downtime associated with the gates and the crossings would be about 14 seconds per crossing. The other thing I wanted to highlight tonight, in terms of benefits, is that not only does this provide improved service, but it's also consistent and supportive with the regional transportation plan, the SACOG MTP SCS, Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategies, but also consistent with the goals of the city of Folsom, Sacramento County, and Rancho Cordova, all of whom are interested in developing Folsom Boulevard as a complete street, encouraging more transit use, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and developing the areas around the stations for transit-oriented development. In terms of the CEQA overview, I'm not going to go through each of these slides in a lot of detail. Again, it was a lot for the benefit of the public. These slides were intended to provide sort of a comprehensive overview if they wanted to get it. But the things that are important on this particular slide is that the environmental document, the California Environmental Quality Act document that's been prepared, is referred to as an initial study. This is not the full-blown, more documented, more comprehensive environmental impact report. And the reason an initial study has been completed instead is that after all the analysis of the 20 or so topics that are required by the California Environmental Quality Act, there are mitigation measures that can be implemented and can be adopted by the SAC-RT board that would reduce all those impacts to less than significant. So there's no reason to go forward with a more expansive, more expensive, more timely environmental impact report. Substantial evidence has been provided for each of the conclusions that are presented in the environmental document, and that substantial evidence is very important in terms of explaining why an impact is considered to be significant or can be reduced to less than significant with the mitigation measures. I'll close on this particular note, and that is, if SAC-RT does agree to revise the project to incorporate these mitigation measures, then the CEQA document, as it's currently presented as a draft, would provide environmental clearance for the proposed project. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the public process and what SAC-RT staff has done an excellent job of to date so far. The CEQA guidelines, the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, require a public hearing to adopt the mitigated negative declaration, the initial study and the mitigated negative declaration. All the other steps that have been taken, such as the initial public meetings that were held in April and June of this year, this particular public meeting, they're all optional. These are things that the SAC-RT staff has directed us to engage in because it's important for the public to be aware of the decisions and actions being taken by the SAC-RT board, and also to give the public an opportunity to comment. So there were the two meetings that were held, one in Rancho Cordova and one in Folsom. Postcards were sent to all property owners, and this is within 1,000 feet of the project centerline, the alignment. Notices of of this meeting and the fact that the SAC-RT board intends to adopt a mitigated negative declaration were printed in local newspapers. They were posted at the city clerk's offices in Rancho Cordova and Folsom, and also at the county. It was shared with the California Office of Planning and Research. And so all the steps that are necessary, and those in addition to what's necessary, have been performed.
Can you tell us how many people attended the meetings in both Folsom and Rancho?
There were at least a half dozen at each.
At least 6 at each?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So.
In the interest of time, do you mind if we keep?
Yeah, oh, sir.
Yeah,
sure.
please.
Definitely.
Let's keep going.
I'm actually wrapping up real quickly.
Okay, good.
Okay, yes. So this, as I said earlier, is really a summary for those who may not have the benefit of being able to attend tonight. So it is actually a summary of all of the CEQA impact topics and the conclusions for each of those topics. There are about 20 topics. Of those 20 topics, only maybe a half dozen required any mitigation measure, and those real briefly were like air quality, noise, traffic, etc. So what I wanted to close with is that we are here tonight to initiate the public review and comment period. The document's been out for public review since November 13th. Our goal tonight is to listen and to hear any comments that come in from the public. It's not our intent to actually provide responses unless directed so by the SAC-RT board. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that everyone has the benefit of the same responses and the same review of the comments and discussion. So the last step, and then we can close, is that we'll receive the comments tonight. We'll prepare written comments, revisions to the document as necessary, and then we hope to bring this back to the SAC-RT board for adoption in the near future, hopefully January.
All right, thank you. Your presentation will probably be longer than the public comment. It's we have 4 members of the public signed up to speak.
Okay.
If you don't mind stepping out of the way, sir, for a minute. I'm going to call all 4 of them if you want to line up. Pat Binley, Jennifer Lane, Janice Briel, and Barbara Leary. Pat? Welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening. I live in Folsom, California, 1209 Sutter Street, and I'm speaking to you tonight because I have only recently learned about the intention to double track the light rail in the city of Folsom. Were city residents notified about this project? If so, how? I believe our entrance to our neighborhood is within 300 feet of the track, and I don't know anybody in my neighborhood who knows anything about this until now. We found out about 2 weeks ago. So I live in a residential neighborhood whose entrance is located on Folsom Boulevard, directly across from the light rail tracks. Because of this, we are impacted by the trains more than other residents in the city, although the traffic congestion affects us all. The light rail is a wonderful asset for those who travel to Sacramento from Folsom. The sad fact is that you will need other forms of transportation to access the services people seek daily. This is true even for residents of affordable housing being planned close to the light rail. For this reason, light rail is underutilized. The traffic congestion double tracking will create does not outweigh the perceived benefits. I would like to know the reasons why it is felt double tracking at 15-minute intervals is considered to be necessary. I wanted to know about the environmental impacts tonight and to have the opportunity to address the board with my concerns. And I thank you for the opportunity and for listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Jennifer Lane, then Janice Briel.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I too live in the historic district. So these are my few concerns. We already have an ad hoc committee of 11 members of residents in the city of Folsom that are meeting monthly regarding traffic and parking. So we really are already impacted with parking. So if you're putting this on a double track system, chances are you're going to need more parking because our parking garage is already pretty full. The trees that will be removed is a huge concern for most of us that know about this. We are distinctive by nature, and as we came here and drove along Folsom Boulevard, I don't see how there's going to be room without removing hundreds of trees. So I don't have that information, how many trees are going to be removed. It didn't show up in the presentation. I propose that if you have to do double tracking, that you stop it at Iron Point. And if there's a big festival in Old Town, a big event, then the city does a shuttle, as they do for most big events anyway. So I really think that it's premature to take it all the way into Old Town Folsom. Like I said, we're already impacted with no parking. And I'd like to say tonight that we are parked in a 15-minute parking zone because there is no parking around here for a public meeting. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And we can provide information about parking adjacent to the RT headquarters for future meetings. Our next speaker is Janice. Janice Briel. Sorry, I'm probably screwing that up.
No problem.
Okay.
I also was not aware of this.
Can you
until
pull the microphone down to your mouth, ma'am? There you go. And if it's, we can get you a hand mic if that.
Is that better?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
I live in the Preserve neighborhood, which is located at the last intersection before Old Town Folsom at Folsom Boulevard and Forest Street. Even now, we have difficulty exiting and entering our neighborhood because of train delays. There's only one way to enter and exit our neighborhood of approximately 100 homes. Having a second set of tracks and additional trains would make the intersection much more unsafe and challenging to get in and out of our neighborhood. I oppose a second set of tracks all the way to Old Town Folsom. I think they could operate trains every 15 minutes with a double track only to the outlets and keep the single track for the remainder. The double track would destroy the city's nice bike and walking trail and the tree covering and the natural environment in some or most of the double track distance. This would be an irreversible destruction. And thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last speaker on this item is Barbara Leary.
Good evening. I'm actually here with two hats on tonight. I'm the chair of the Sacramento Sierra Club, and I want the board to know that the Sierra Club is very supportive of increasing all of the public transit options in the region in order to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, to reduce congestion on the freeways, as well as to not just benefit Folsom, but to benefit our region. Folsom has some of the worst air quality in the region, and I think it behooves us all to improve the transit out there. As a user, I have noticed that the service has been greatly improved by having service on into the evenings. I come downtown for a fair number of meetings. I live in the Natoma Station area, which is within a mile of the light rail station down there, and a lot of the people in my neighborhood commute. When I come down to a meeting, I no longer have to drive because I can take a train home at this time. I think it's been shown on numerous studies in the past that increasing the frequency of the trains will increase ridership, as people won't have to wait for that half an hour delay until the next train comes. I also want to note that I haven't had a chance to read the entire packet that you're reviewing tonight, but I just want to add that mitigation in terms of improving the traffic delays along the feeder arterials on Folsom Boulevard will be a very welcome change, and I understand that's part of the process. If there are trees that need to be removed, that the mitigation for those trees I would like to see that made possible along the transit corridor. And I do want you all to know that I've been hearing that the long-range plan for this double tracking and increased service has been discussed for many years. I've worked on a couple of projects along the Folsom Boulevard corridor, and I know that in consideration of those projects being developed, that the right-of-way to allow for double tracking has been in place for a long time. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. I know that the comment period is still open on the EIR, and tonight those comments that have been received will get an appropriate response drafted as part of the preparation. Would any board members like to comment at this point? Yeah, there's no action other than to hold the hearing.
No, just for the folks that were asking about the double track extending all the way to the historic district, it doesn't. The double track portion is only from Park Shore to Bidwell. And there is, as Chair Hansen just said, and Barbara Leary just said, that right-of-way exists already. So it's not going to be double tracks the entire way. So.
All right. With that, we'll.
And if we could, when you get the responses to them, if you have any information on the impact on the trees, that would be helpful as well.
All right. With that, we'll close the public hearing. And Madam Clerk, next item.
Next item, new business 7.1. An intent motion for the selection of chair and vice chair of the SAC-RT Board of Directors for 2020. This is our annual request for an intent motion for the chair and vice chair for 2020. We will be back. I'm sorry. As has been pointed out to me, we have public addresses. The board on matters not on the agenda first.
I was wondering about that. We'll just do the public comment first. We have 3 speakers. Jeffrey Tardigia, are you still here? There you are, Jeffrey. Bonnie Lindemann, and then Sarah Kerber. Jeffrey?
I'm working at it. Board, what I will remind you in looking forward. I'm glad that next year there will be at least 2 meetings taking place in most of the month, because this last year you never saw any single configuration at all for either buses, light rail, or anything else. Something needs to be done about procedure, checklists, and a policy related to what information goes out to the public. This sheet right here needs to have better information. You had a meeting this morning. I do not know how it was attended, but for the rest of the meetings, it would be great for the Carmichael one and the one that goes out to Citrus Heights, that the public libraries get notification of these meetings taking place for that date, and what's involved through here. Also is as far as counts or everything else, 2015, you produced the last 99 plus, or actually 93 buses. There are problems with some of those buses. You ought to review them and see before the next time and what the next configuration looks like. The first 30 buses on there were never retrofitted because you had one intention of one type of restraint system and you went to a different restraint system. So you have a little tiny higher rail on the first 30 of the 15 buses. So as I've spoken with Chris before, policy, procedures. Right now, you finally removed the sandwich board that was sitting at Sac Valley for 38, but you still miss the 15th and I Street, where you still have posters up for the 30 and the 38. I hope you remove the, shall we say, sandwich board that was sitting at 7th and Administration Building for the, shall we say, shuttle service that was provided when you had a problem at the Sacramento Valley Station replacement. So all of these things encourage next year, hopefully you will do a workshop and you will get something in there better about where and how you have the outreach to policy, the outreach to the public, and what you figure out that you're doing, because it's not enough. Clearly, with these projects that have been going on for more than 2 years, both for the Folsom, the airport, and the causeway, that the information did not get out to the public. So need to work on a better mechanism.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Bonnie Lindman. And after her, Sarah Kerber, our last speaker, and comments on matters not on the agenda. Welcome, ma'am.
My name is Bonnie Lindemann. I'm here with the support of 25 other people. These are the same people that I brought with me on the 25th of February. Basically, it takes 2 hours for me to get out here. There were no improvements to the Sunrise Mall group. We now have microtransit, which does not provide fixed service. It provides not guaranteed service. It's not very reassuring when you're on the road not to know when your buses are coming, or if you're going to have to wait an extra 20 minutes. It just doesn't work for us. I heard Susan make mention of how happy the Orangevale people are. They basically just had, I guess that they just extended microtransit for them. But without 28 and 24, I'm having to walk. Every single time I'm going to go take a bus, I have to walk an extra 25 minutes, which isn't very convenient. Recently, I saw this on the bus, and it's related to buses that have already gone defunct, and it was actually kind of humiliating to me to think that our buses that we've been doing without are now going to be drastically changed or discontinued. I don't know how they can do anything else to them. They're already gone. I get the impression over and over that we're being considered, but part of the plan was for our area just to simply have microtransit as a substitution. And it was my understanding that microtransit was supposed to be a pilot. And my concern is if we don't choose to use microtransit, then we could possibly lose it. It's a 1.5 to 2 year pilot program. And we already have a very depleted set of buses to work with. So You know, personally, I've not used microtransit. The things that I've heard from other people I take seriously. I know that when they're telling me something, it's not to impress me or to, get a dinner out of me. They are, they're saying it like it is. So my question is, for our particular part of town, what is our hopes in the event that people are not going to be using microtransit because that's all we got, and if we're not showing our numbers, maybe we won't even have that. So what will our choices be? We've already been depleted by 4 fixed routes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sarah Kerber?
Good evening, Board. The Sacramento Transit Riders Union is inviting the SAC-RT Board and other elected officials and leaders around Sacramento to participate in our second transit riding competition, which challenges community leaders to ride public transit for 1 week in January 2020, the week of January 13th through the 19th. We believe that the best way to make informed choices is through a firsthand experience of what riding on public transit is like in our community. Similar to our 2018 challenge, thank you to everyone who participated. We hope for a better turnout this year. This is an exciting and fun opportunity to engage with the public and make transit fun for everyone. We will again be tracking points through photos posted on social media of participants actively riding public transit in our region. Participants will get points by using the hashtag SACRT Challenge. We will announce the winner at the January 27th RT board meeting and present them with an award at that time. We hope you embrace this fun community event and help create enthusiasm and excitement around our public transit system. We understand that using public transit is more challenging in some communities, which was expressed to us by board members during the last challenge. And we hope that this experience highlights how important incorporating public transit funding is in every conversation to ensure equitable economic development in our region. We encourage that you pursue a path of no more transit last planning and no more transit last funding in every conversation you have. SAC-TRU would like to wish the Board of Directors and SAC-RT staff a very happy holiday season, and we look forward to working with you in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy holidays to you, too. All right, Madam Clerk, now it's time for...
Again, item 7.1 is our annual intent motion for the chair and vice chair for 2020.
I'm glad you're really excited.
I am excited.
Director Harris, I saw you lean in earlier when she got you ready before. Did you want to?
Well, I just have you open nominations for chair.
Yep, I have opened nominations for chair and vice chair.
Well, I would like to publicly nominate our current vice chair, Steve Hansen, for chair of the SAC-RT Board of Directors for 2020.
And I'd like to nominate Board Member Miller for vice chair.
Do you accept the nomination
for vice chair?
All right. Okay, so we have a Mr. Harris, was that a motion?
It was.
Okay. Ms. Howell, was that a separate motion? And we have a motion and second on both. I guess any other comments? Any other takers? No? Okay. The motion on the chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstain, oppose, motion passes. The motion on vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Congratulations, Steve and Steve.
Well, this should be fun.
Steve M. and Steve H.
I want it noted, if the chair is going to speak to himself in the third person, I might have to reconsider my vote.
The vote's already done.
And we sit on a lot of boards with him, and he does that a lot, actually.
All right. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Well, with that, both motions carry by 100 votes. Next item is item 7.2, resolution, receive and file the comprehensive financial report on compliance and internal controls as required by Uniform Guidance and the Transportation Development Act, the report to the Board of Directors for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019, and designate $3,296,647 to SAC-RT's operating reserve. And Jamie Adelman is here to present.
Good evening.
Maybe before you present, I just want to say we spent years at this board, Jay, Jeff, Rick, everyone up here, commenting on how our reserve went down every year, and we desperately wanted to turn that around. So for the past few years, the staff have worked really hard. I know we have our auditors here, we have everyone, but I just want to thank our finance team, our business operations team, and our general manager for all of the hard work to ensure that we have the safety net we need, that if something goes wrong, we'll have a prudent reserve. So
I completely agree.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely good news for SAC-RT. We do have Scott Nickerson here with us from Crow LLP. They're our auditors. I'm very happy to say that we have a clean audit opinion again this year. No findings from internal controls or compliance-related matters. So if you have any questions, Scott is here to answer those. But just to reiterate, we did have an operating surplus again this year of approximately $3.3 million that staff is recommending be designated to the operating reserve. And that does put us just a little bit closer to meeting our reserve policy.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any members of the public signed up. Do any board members want to speak, or we'll entertain a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Director Howell, a second from Director Chenier. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Motion carries unanimously. Madam
Motion
Clerk.
carries at 100 votes. Next item is item 8.1, the general manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Income Chair and the Chair, the Vice Chair, current Vice Chair, and the whole board. We have three staff to the update board and the public on three items. I'm going to ask them to limit it to 2 minutes, each three of you. And before you guys speak, very quickly some short update. First, congratulations to Lieutenant Justin Risley for promoting to the captain. And if you recall, he is on a pre-scheduled vacation, but his official ceremony will be next week. But I needed to make this announcement in the board, because he works for us. 3 years ago, Norman Young, who was the lieutenant, working for RT for a year, and he got promoted to the captain. Then afterwards, Lisa Han, who was the lieutenant, and she got promoted to the captain. Then a year later, Justin got promoted to the captain. So we feel so proud of them, and also we feel so proud of ourselves too. And this agency really, is a great place to work for. And send my congratulations to Justin, please. Secondly, last month, 2 reporters from TV station Good Day Sacramento, they did a match between a bus and a bike to say which one can get from Sac State to Golden One Center faster. Twice, the reporter who wrote our bus won the matches, twice matches, and also the reporter said, hey, you guys bus are really, clean, safe, and the driver was very friendly. So it's a good information to share. Do I have a clap on that? Just 1 second clap. Okay.
The goal? Get to Doko before the other one does.
Let's check back in with Ashley. She is ready to get this show on the road. We are waiting for Tina's bus to arrive. So here's the deal. I have the Good Day Cruiser, which I mentioned earlier. Probably not the best commuter bike, but you know what? You never know what people are using to get to and from obviously different locations in Sacramento.
Yeah. Okay, so bus
Are you going
30.
to Doko?
Take it right here and slide it, and then you give it to me.
What's your name?
My name is TL.
TL?
Yeah.
I'm Tina Makua.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Okay.
No, seriously.
The chain broke. The chain
Scott,
broke.
what do you mean the chain Tina! Yay!
Let's cut over.
Yay! I still can't talk. I'm tired.
She switched to a jump bike, yeah.
Twice we won, twice. Yeah. And the third thing is, on December 2nd, SAC-RT and the Sacramento Children's Home held a press conference to unveil the holiday bus at the Sacramento Children's Home. Thanks to Director Chenier and Chair Kennedy for attending the press conference. the SACRT holiday bus travels on different routes throughout the Sacramento region from December 1st through January 1st. And the full schedule is available at sacrt.com.
Director Harris, did you want to say something?
I did. Henry, just to follow up on your first point about everybody promoting to captain who works at RT, as I understand it, the incoming lieutenant will be Roman Murrieta. And I just want to say that he's been my executive lieutenant in North Command for the last 2.5 years. This is an excellent individual, and I'm very excited to have him work for RT. And if he promotes to captain, all the better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Harris. All right.
Next, I think...
we already praised the good work of our finance team, so...
So
anything you wanna
finance
add to
team
that?
will escape, then Lisa, then Laura.
Thank you, Brent.
Which one is it? This one. Chair Hansen, members of the board, I'm here to provide a safety and security update for you. I'm Lisa Hines, the Vice President of Security, Safety, and Customer Satisfaction. Regarding the Service Animal Ad Hoc Committee, as you know, we met 4 times previously, and then we stopped our last meeting in September of 2018, and then we had that incident, and so we restarted the ad hoc meetings. We had one October 22nd, and we have one scheduled for January. Some of the results of the ad hoc committee meeting and talking to the MAC members were that they wanted more training for the Security Operations Center, and those folks have received in-depth training on SACRT's responsibilities regarding service animals, and it became a topic when they were calling into the Security Operations Center, the folks calling in. And then the guards and transit ambassadors have also received additional training, and we created some policies and procedures to hold them accountable to make sure that they're enforcing the 2 questions that we can ask. And then lastly, we've had some undercover dogs and cats on the trains, and we're actually testing our people to make sure that they are actually asking the 2 questions. So we've had some success with that.
You really brought cats on the train?
Yeah, one of our employees wanted to do it, and she had a cat.
I have a 30-pound Maine Coon cat, and I wouldn't even think about bringing it.
Yeah, she brought it on the train and the bus.
We'll have
would
to
scare the
discuss-
passengers, actually.
We're going to have to talk about your cat after the...
Lisa, was the cat on the leash?
Yeah, it was on a leash.
Good for them. I've been trying. Mine doesn't work.
So on to the transit ambassador and transit officer system benefits. There we go. So as you all know, that we've switched over to the Transit Ambassador program, and we're having great results with excellent customer service, high visibility, train cleanliness, fair inspection, friendliness, and helpfulness. And that's really gone over well because my prior experience, it was the opposite when we had transit agents. So it's really nice to see that we're helping people find their way to buying fare and being able to ride our system. And then we, of course, had to do the plug for the Gold Standard Award. Contracted guard system benefits. We have great station coverage, great customer service, assisting passengers with the fare vending machines, station cleanliness, paid fare zone checks, and assist ambassadors with nuisance behavior. One of the questions that was presented to us in safety and security was the updating of the light rail messaging boards, and that still occurs through Metro. Basically, the dispatchers for rail, as soon as they have a reasonable time, they update these boards. On the right is a speaker, the PA system, the voice of God. And that's updated by the Security Operations Center. And the time frame that we're having where we're updating passengers is 13 minutes or more on delays. It was a little too much. We tried 10 minutes, and per Henry's direction, we're doing 13-minute delays if there's an extensive delay. But we have the ability to immediately notify passengers, which we're doing also. So we're using the PA system a lot. And the last thing I wanted to share with you, oops, I jumped a page. Informacast, the second to last thing. At SACRT, they brought in this great notification system, and we've been using it for 2 months. And we're using it for bus and rail incidents, and we're able to email, text, and it also will call you when we've had an accident, incident, or occurrence. Or we can use it for building evacuations or notifying of a major critical incident. Our goal is to end up here. So right now the Security Operations Center, is located at SAC PD. We want one operational control center. We want it to be at 1225 R Street. We want it to be bus, rail, and police control, one unified command, and this is where our goal, our endpoint is, we hope to be. Any questions?
I have one question.
Director Budge.
Is Alert SAC-RT still the best go-to for people?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that because I mostly get all the different delay messages, and there's a lot of delay messages.
That's the 10 to the 13 minutes because we want to keep our people notified, but there's a point.
I understand, but I get a lot of delay messages.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other directors who want to speak. Next item, or next update.
I'll give you a quick update this evening on paratransit services. In November, we had a number of informational open houses for employees. We had 3. They were extremely well attended. We had over 80 interested individuals attend those employee open houses. Our goal is to make it as easy and convenient as possible for any paratransit Inc. employees interested in coming over to SAC-RT to assist with our paratransit operation. We provided preliminary information on the hiring process, talked to them about our online application process and so forth, and answered a lot of really good questions from the staff. We are also filling some of our key positions, and I think with us tonight, if you don't mind, is Dan Tao, our new Director of Community Bus over the paratransit service operation. And we're recruiting right now for other key leadership positions. We've sent out a couple of written communications and frequently asked questions to all of our paratransit riders, which we have recently shared with the Board of Directors. We're continuing to frequently meet with the Mobility Advisory Council. We also have a number of open houses scheduled that we have invited all of our paratransit riders to attend. The first one was actually here today in the auditorium, and it was also very well attended. We had about 50 people here this morning with lots of great questions about the service transition. We have information on the SAC-RT website at sacrt.com, and our Accessible Services Department is always available to answer any questions that riders may have about the transition. I just wanted to share their phone number, which is 916-557-4685. They also have an email address at paratransit@sacrt.com. For any questions, feel free to direct any questions you receive to those sources. And then here are the remaining customer open houses. We've got one in Citrus Heights on January 7th at the Community Center, here again in the auditorium on January 8th, Carmichael Library January 13th, and the Pinnell Community Center on January 23rd. And we have postcards in the back of the room with those dates as well, and those have all been mailed. They've been mailed directly to all of the current riders. Last, I just wanted to share the branding for our new service. It's called SAC-RT Go Paratransit Services. We had an employee contest to generate the name. We shared the top 3 names with our Mobility Advisory Council along with the branding. They were very supportive. They felt that it conveyed the message of mobility and independence that paratransit affords. And then just a quick shot of what it would look like on one of our current vehicles.
Laura, I just want to add the potential employees open house. That's the first round. We're going to do more rounds, when we approach the transition time, and we're going to have those meetings nearby Paratransit Inc.'s or within Paratransit Inc.'s facility. Laura mentioned 85 employees, potential employees attend our open house. They are very, very, very positive. Then right, the customers open house this morning, over 50 people attend right here. They are also very, very, very positive. And one thing I'm especially, happy is when I ask them one question, they are very, very, they actually, they want to do that, which what I said is, do you mind to, write together 3-4 people, then I will ask the board to change the fare policy to reduce your fare or free. Imagine 4 people ride together, that is $20 fare revenue. However, we will save $140 for that one trip. So it's $20 loss, $140 gain. All of them, everybody say they love to do that. So that's some wonderful initiatives we can take in the future. So that being said, I want to add another message. This month, we have been hosting a series holiday town hall events for our own employees. Over probably 300 or 400 people attend. We want to bring the holiday cheers while partaking in the meal together and expressing our appreciation for the hard work and commitment throughout the entire year. I truly believe our entire EMT members believe we have one of the best teams in the country to accomplish our many wonderful initiatives. And when we close the year, I also want to take a moment to thank all of you, our board members, our partners, like Secretary, Sarah is here, our passengers, for the wonderful collaboration and the dedication and leadership. And I look forward to another exciting and rewarding new year ahead of us. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Henry. We have 2 members of the public signed up to speak. Mr. Hume, would you like to wait until they're done?
Sure.
Okay. First, we have Jeffrey Tartagia and then Mike Barnbaum. Jeffrey, would you like the mic? We can bring you the mic. Okay, just wait there for one. Well, and did Mr. Barnbaum leave? Oh, okay, sorry.
I see him. He's in the bright yellow tie.
But Pat, you don't appreciate my 2020 census shirt?
I think it's great, Jeffrey, but the chair was able to see you with his limited vision, apparently.
Mr.
Okay. What I'm going to go back and say, Henry, we've come a long ways on the electronic bulletin board from the August conversation that you and I initially had with staff about the needs and the wants. I'm still hoping that the brand new 40 that came in this year have the second time clock on them so that you can distinguish between what is real time and what is a time signature stamp for when you have a delay. I have suggested that a procedure and report is helpful, so as Linda suggests, you don't have 30 or 40 delay messages sitting on your text message and other services of your alert app. I think if you would do it at 6 o'clock in the morning and you do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it would give your riders a heads up about what is the status of light rail. It's just a suggestion. The thing I will also offer to you is on November 4th, when I attended a discussion with the state about dealing with mobility options, the state and the city. When I went out there at 5:30 to go to a paratransit board meeting, the sign up there said that the Gold Line was being delayed, and this is at 5:30. One of the weaknesses is after 5 o'clock, the notification and the timetable, you have a loss of people. So you do not know, because I was at the Archive Plaza and 3 separate blue lines went by with no gold line in between. So that tells me it was a lot longer than the timetable that was put up there, and there was a long line of people that were waiting to get on a gold line at Archive Plaza. So these are things that, like the other suggestion I'm making of putting better announcements and so public comment get through policies and procedures, these are all things that I hope next year that we will see timetables at between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning and between 5 and 6 since you now have the passenger counters in the light rail vehicles, all of them apparently now, that and possibly when bus service, what those transition on schedules look like.
Jeff, I never really respond to your comments before. I really appreciate those comments, but I would like to have a request to you. Help us to get more money, because the real issue, we have so many delays at the maintenance issue, and the vehicles are so old.
I know.
But you did not really, try to. I mean, you helped, but you use your own way. Sometimes it's not really helpful. Please, help us.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I think he's done with the microphone if somebody wants to grab it. Mr. Barnbaum, why don't you come up? And if you want, since you're the next couple speakers as well.
Oh, okay. Sure. All right. So little bit of my background for the public. So again, Mike Barnbaum. I specialize in service planning, marketing, communication, outreach, and customer service, as well as legislative advocacy at the state level. First of all, thank you to Laura for the paratransit update provided in the general manager's report. I hope to plan on attending an open house soon to learn more in depth about the transition. Henry, thank you for recognizing that there were 50 or so individuals just this morning that attended the first open house. I apologize for not being there. It was in conflict with scheduled work hours, so I was at work. But on that presentation, so let me promote something, but then ask a question as well. So for some time, you may have known, Director Hume is very familiar with this. Paratransit has been providing non-ADA paratransit services to Sacramento International Airport for $10 one way. Regular paratransit fare is $5. However, Route 142 takes flight on January 5th, and with an action you had previously and earlier in your agenda, rides on Route 142 for the first calendar month will be free. And that was under item 2.10. So with the transition to regional transit providing ADA paratransit services, but that takes place as previously established by this board on Sunday, March 29th. There's going to be a period from Sunday, January 5th through Saturday, March 28th, which Paratransit Incorporated is still under contract providing paratransit services. Does this mean, legal counsel, help me with this, does the RT board need to take an action then for a time period from January 5th through March 28th, including perhaps an emergency action, to lower the paratransit fare to the airport during that time period only to $5 because a fixed route on the RT system will be going to the airport?
Mike, unfortunately, you can't direct general counsel from up there, but we can follow up with you after the meeting and talk to you about that issue.
Yeah, I got that question a lot at work.
Yeah, I understand.
And I want to try to answer some people I talk to on a daily basis as soon as I can.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Hume, you wanted to speak quickly?
I did, thank you. And I apologize, it goes back to the branding for the SAC-RT Go. We moved on from that before I had a chance to speak while it was germane, but just from a psychological perspective, anytime, and anybody that was on the STA board when we were doing Measure B will recall me raising the same issue. When you have the word go in red, you're causing a conflict in people's brains, because red is associated with stop.
Yeah.
It must be green.
It should be green.
What about for people that are red and green colorblind?
Which I am, thank you, Chair.
So how did you know it was red?
Yellow colorblind.
No, I was Mike colorblind.
I don't know how far along we are in that branding, but I think that's an appropriate change.
Thank you. We will try to take that into serious consideration, and likely we will change to blue.
Same discussion at the SDA board a couple of years ago.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I just want to say it's like a magenta pink.
It's pink, yeah. We didn't want to criticize Director Hume's color sensitivity, given that he has a disability.
It clearly is more on the red spectrum than the green spectrum. That's all I'm saying.
It's red.
Okay. Everyone? We're almost done here. Madam Clerk, final item.
Please, Vice Chair Hanson.
Capitol Corridor and San Joaquin Powers, do we have the reports in the packet?
Yes.
I know,
Yes.
Mike, you've signed up for both. Would you be willing to just keep it to 3
Combine.
minutes? Yes,
Let me
please.
combine the speaker cards
Thank you.
into
Thank you.
a JPA report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very exciting to learn at the Capitol Corridor Board that the Sacramento Valley Station and Rail Yards project was one of the key highlight and agenda items at that meeting in San Jose. Speaking of which, on a related matter, the Sacramento Valley Station Master Plan meeting held by AIM Consulting is tomorrow at 5:30 at Sacramento City Hall Conference Room. And on the San Joaquin JPA, there was a very interesting report about service moving forward into the future and strategic and regional initiatives that the San Joaquin JPA wants to come up with, specifically focusing on Sacramento. One highlight was the redistribution of the train line from the current UP alignment to the old former SP alignment, traveling through Midtown and City College. But highlighted in there was staff wants to plan and work with RT and the SACOG Transit Coordinating Committee a Sacramento International Airport shuttle from Natomas, as well as perhaps a rail maintenance yard in the upper reaches of North Natomas near Elkhorn and Sorrento. So this is something I will check with them. Again, on January 24th, the meeting that they are going to hold will be in Stockton. So if any directors by then, and if you've appointed your colleagues to various boards and committees through service on this board, again, to the San Joaquin JPA, that will be on, again, January 24th in Stockton. If you're going to serve on the Capitol Corridor JPA next year, their next meeting is the 12th of February, Wednesday before President's Day, and that will be in Sassoon City. Thank you. That's the latest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barnbaum.
JPA
Appreciate
report.
The update. Without any further comments from board members, I will wish everybody happy holidays, and we'll see you again in January. And with that, we're adjourned.